Alexander Isak, rumours have returned. And of course, we've got to talk about this Ben White injury and play some catch up on stuff. Let me just quickly adjust my audio because I think it's a little too high. That might be a little bit better. Let me know in the comments. Of course, you're catching this later. This is a live stream, but of course, it will remain on the channel for everyone to watch if you're tuning in a little bit later. Isak, White, Arsenal in general, David Coote, plenty to chat about. I want to start by saying, and I'm sorry, I know this is a little bit of housekeeping, but if you're tuning in live, actually, even if you're tuning in later, and apologies, there hasn't been that much content on the channel this week. We're by we, I mean me and the amazing Max. You know, always shout out Max. He does some incredible work for this channel, on this channel. We've been working very hard to get stuff ready for when Arsenal return, in the form of, well, let me not promise too much in case we don't deliver it, but things are looking good. But in the form of just some upgrades for the Goonerverse that we're really excited about. Like I said, we need to chat about Alexander Isak because rumours continue to emerge. Is this just stuff that makes its way out so Arsenal fans feel a little bit better about the form we're in? Perhaps. We'll explore that. I do think we need to talk about what Ben White's injury, surgery, recovery time means for Arsenal, what to expect, what we now need from the other squad players throughout this time, because we're about to hit, I mean, when you talk about the run we've just had, but we're going to, after this international break, hit a run of relentless football, and we're going to need our squad to show up and play their part in it. And like I said, we'll talk David Coote as well, because more has emerged since I did my video on Monday. To be honest, the reason I haven't done many updates since, not only because of all the work that's been going on the Goonerverse behind the scenes, but I just didn't feel there's much to add to it. I mean, I did my conversation with Turkish, on AFTV. We had a really good conversation about it. I urge you all to go watch that if you missed it. There wasn't really much to add. I know more footage came out. It didn't really change my perspective of the PGMOL and the lack of professionalism, but more opinions have been thrown out there. More's been discussed. So we'll go through it in this. Get your comments and get your thoughts in. Let's say hi to a load of you. And yes, Twerk for Work. Great name. It's Harry Potter. I know. The glasses are more round as well. I kind of got new ones. I got like new ones a month ago, maybe. And yeah, they're more round. Lol. Anyway, yes, James is late. Taking after Turkish. Sorry. Turkish used to get mad at me for being super on time. Yes, the Hoover is absolutely sorted out. It hasn't gone rogue since the one day that it did. But maybe if you talk about it, it goes off. I don't know. Anyway, it's okay. It's chilling over there. Yes, Casper's clips. Hope you're well. David Coote stuff feels like a surreal drip. I know what you mean. It all sounds a bit nuts, doesn't it? It all sounds a bit like, yeah, it doesn't feel real. It's like, what am I watching? It's why I've kind of laughed whilst also having to have a serious conversation around it. And there's kind of more I want to add to that as well. Oreguna. Is it Orguna? Oreguna? Let me know how to pronounce it. Pick up yourself, James. Appreciate the insight, Harbert. Thank you so much. I super appreciate it. It's been a while we've done a live as well. Like, we haven't done this for a long, long time. And again, because we're tidying up so much in the Goonerverse, I've tried to just bring you thoughts and content in, I'll be honest, in the not laziest, but easiest way possible, because there's just so much other stuff that kind of needs my attention. People are saying Yoko's over Isak, long-term option, says Birmingham Gunner, and plenty more. Great question. Arsenal News 7, him or Kudus, Isak or Kudus. It's very tight. I think it's like 51-49 Isak, but I would love Kudus. And the reason he was the one I wanted the most was because I felt he was the most gettable, actually. But yeah, all right. Let's talk about the Isak stuff then and go into the meat of this live stream. Normally, I would be pulling up, you know, when all the rumors emerge, even if they are rumors more than sort of really concrete reports, I'd be pulling up on screen. But like I said, I keep saying it, because we're changing so much, this bedroom that's turning into where I'll be filming from has things have been moved around. That's where the internet is. So I'm actually wary of sort of sharing a screen, and the internet dips even more. I'm actually pleasantly surprised the internet's holding up this well at the moment for the live stream. So won't be pulling up anything to kind of show you what's kind of been going on and who's saying what, but I will obviously try to credit everything as much as possible. Man, I was going to start on the White stuff, but go on, let's talk Isak. It's on the thumbnail, and it's, yeah, kind of the big thing from today. Look, so ITKs, more specifically, Con Harrison is the one who's come out and said that Isak is Arsenal's #1 target. Every time I talk about ITKs and what they are bringing to the conversation, I always like to just very quickly give a background and just say, look, He was spot on about the Ben White stuff. He was spot on about Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice pulling out of England international duty. That was all very recent. He got things wrong on a Calafiori injury a month ago, and there was another player injured. They got something wrong on as well. And so, bit hit and miss. Isn't that true of all reporters? Maybe. So when someone who, to be fair, has a track record of getting some things right, I'll also tell you some of the other stuff they're saying. He's saying that Isak is a top target. I had also seen it rumored by other people. Other people have kind of been putting it out there that Alexander Isak was a player that Arsenal were really, really looking at. But the other big thing is the contract situation. Now, apparently in fact, we can look this up. Alexander Isak, contract expiry. That's how I want to spell it. Contract is this kind of thing that transfer marks would tell you. Contract expires. You'll know in the comments. Just tell me. Hey, how you doing? Hope you're good, Max. When does his contract expire? I said it's the kind of thing transfer. 2028. That's ages. How you doing, Max? Hope you're good, bro. Max is working bloody hard on some great stuff for the Goonerverse. That's ages away. I thought it was going to be like 2027. So that come the summer of 2025, he would have 2 years left. Thank you, Ryan Arsenal. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of changed my position slightly on this conversation, but let's have it out anyway. Fine. So what was being said though? What was reported? I think it was like Graham Bailey or someone. I don't know. They were saying that Alexander Isak and Newcastle are not agreeing at the moment on terms of a new deal. Now, what would be interesting to know is if this current contract he's on is the same as the one he was on when he signed in, I think it was summer of 2022. So yeah, 2 years on, you'd kind of expect there to be a conversation around that. But at the same time, I don't know what the rush is for Newcastle. I understand, maybe there's 3.5 years left on his contract. I imagine they're pretty relaxed about it. I wonder what it is they're not agreeing on. Is it a release clause that Isak wants in there? Is it some sort of guarantee of a potential to leave if Newcastle don't hit certain targets? Because that is quite a long commitment he has to that contract. But essentially, they're supposedly not agreeing on something, and Arsenal could be in a position to swoop. Now, when I say a position to swoop, I mean, put 120 million on the table and Newcastle might say yes. I mean, this is what we're dealing with here. I mean, because his contract, which I've only just learned, doesn't expire until 2028, albeit I did think it was more like 26 or 27. Newcastle are in a really good position. So even if we do want him next summer, they will demand exactly what they think he's worth, because they'll be like, all right, or we get to keep this great striker for another 2-3 years. Like, or see if like our fortunes change while we have him, and then he may want to sign a new deal. So all the powers with Newcastle here. I don't think Arsenal or Arsenal fans should be getting particularly excited about this one just yet. He might be a top target, but he is someone who doesn't feel overly gettable. He's someone that, a bit like the Declan Rice saga, we're going to have to work very, very hard to try and get this done. We would have to basically have the opposite, have the other club, Newcastle, in this situation, in a stranglehold where we're basically like, Isak has said he wants to come. He's refusing to sign a new deal. You have to make this deal happen. And maybe there's something in these, I don't know, FFP, what's the other terminology? I can't remember the other one. PSR. And the PSR rules that maybe kind of force their hand a little bit, because they never sold Guimaraes, they never sold Anthony Gordon. Does that put them in a position when it comes to Alexander Isak? Maybe. Or with any of those players, it maybe puts them in a position where they have to do something. But the reality is, I think they have all the power. Do I want Alexander Isak? Absolutely. But I'll tell you what I'd really like Arsenal to do as well. I think when we've kind of bought big and we've known the target we've won, whether it be a Ben White, a Declan Rice, a Jurien Timber, a Gabriel, a Martin Odegaard, a whatever. I think whenever we've gone for that kind of big target we're absolutely sure about and we've delivered on them, our track record's been pretty good. I think when we've dropped to a 20 million pound player in Lokonga, or a 27 million pound player in Trossard, who, to be fair, has largely been a success for us, no question, and a few other players. 13 is quite off Trossard, but you get my point. I feel like we do this thing where the players we know we absolutely want, they tend to do really well at the club. I can't really think of any major signings that have been a failure. Now, you can all debate whether Havertz has been a success in the form of a £65 million player who came to do a very specific role, who is deserving of being the top owner of the club. I mean, you can all debate that, but he's been a failure. I mean, we signed him and we got 89 points and missed out on the title by 2 points. In fact, the only time we dropped points in the running was when we moved Havertz from his best position. So I'd argue that he certainly has been a failure yet. But the failures have been those kind of lower, lower level signings by Arsenal standards, of course, by big money Premier League standards. And I look at some of the players who missed out on Alexander Isak, who I think would he cost Newcastle 50 to 60 million, something like that. Missing out Isak then, when his value is probably doubled, if not more than doubled. Got a few players here. Mohamed Kudus, 34 million. 34. Vieira's a good shout. Thank you. Is an example of a player that wasn't that ridiculous money. That hasn't really worked out. Kudus, 34 million. For whatever reason, we didn't want to do it. We couldn't do it. Whatever it is, we prioritized other deals. Lucas Paqueta, 50, 55 million. Bruno Guimaraes, around 30 to 35 million. These are all players whose values have gone up significantly. I don't think you get Guimaraes for less than 80 million now. They signed for 35. I don't think you get Paqueta for less than 70, 80. Of course, he's got all his stuff going on. But again, 55 million is what they paid for him. I've got another one here, Douglas Luiz. Now, look, I know Douglas Luiz ended up, because of his contract situation or whatever, leaving Aston Villa, went to Juve, and I'm not sure it's quite working out for him there. So his stock might have dropped significantly, but there was a point last season where we look at him going, we should have spent 30 million on him because Villa are going to demand 60, 70, 80. You know, Kudus doesn't go for less than 90 for me, and Isak doesn't go for less than 120. I do just feel like there's something about Arsenal whereby we go for these players, and the thing about all those five I just mentioned there is we were linked to them. Arsenal wanted them. We know Arsenal wanted them. So why we weren't brave enough just to go and push that? And we can't say that, well, we didn't have the money, because the money went elsewhere. So I have concerns about why we are so late to kind of gamble on a player that seems perfect, that we supposedly want, that we've done the vetting process and we've gone through everything and decided, yeah, they'd be a good fit, but something is stopping us from quite doing it. And then ultimately we find ourselves going, oh, they're our top target. We really want them. I mean, we were linked to Kudus last week for around 90 million. And you're thinking, yeah, of course we were. I don't know why we don't pick them up before. Do we need to see them at other club? Our Arsenal thinking we'd rather spend 120 million on a guy who we know is going to absolutely deliver than 40 million on a guy that we're not 100% sure. Is that the way they think about it? Maybe. But it just seems really strange that these are players we wanted, but didn't go bigger for them before, and they ended up at clubs that weren't playing Champions League football, by the way. So, yeah, really strange one. Would I like Isak? Of course I would. He's fantastic. He would complement our front line brilliantly. I think he'd link up well with Saka, Martinelli, who else is out on the left. I think he would drop in the lines and hold up the ball well. I think he'd run the channels. I think he could drift left while the wingers sort of move into more forward areas. I think he'd do a lot of great work, Alexander Isak. But I don't want Arsenal to go, this is the guy, and if they don't get him, it doesn't happen, because I don't think we are getting him. I think Newcastle keep their man, personally. So have a Kudus ready, have other players ready. Clearly not trusting Raheem Sterling, so you dare think about making that a permanent. So yeah, people mention Gyökeres. I mean, there might be a release clause. There's rumours of 60 million or so would be the kind of fee that gets it done next summer. Keep an eye on that one. I think Isak feels like, basically, whatever you think of Kai Havertz, thank you, Marcelo, you've read my mind. Whatever you think of Kai Havertz, Arteta could easily do this. He could easily go, I want Isak and Saka wide for Havertz up front, if Havertz is in great form and Martinelli isn't. I think that fluidity, that flexibility, having players that can play in multiple areas to allow Arteta to not make the big decisions on certain players when they're in certain form is something that he wants to look at. And I'm not saying he's shying away or being a coward when it comes to making the decisions. I just think for tactical reasons and the idea that you don't have to pick between, you know, two informed players for one position. You can potentially get them both in there. I think all this feeds into why Arteta ultimately loves fluidity and flexibility so much. Like I said, tactical reasons too, but that's certainly part of it. Guna makes a great point. I think I talked about this in my video. It says this conversation is exactly why I'm not devastated, or let me rephrase that. let me read your phrasing perfectly. This conversation is why I'm not exactly devastated about Edu leaving. I'm curious if he was not able to get these kinds of deals over the line when these players were worth half what they are now. Absolutely. I mean, did he try to and fail to get these players through the lines? Mikel Arteta sat somewhere going, I wanted these guys, not my fault. They didn't deliver on that. I don't know. It's an interesting one. A lot of bring Victor. You're also saying that you don't want us to get Isak. Fair enough. Would you take Sane for cheap? Looks like we're definitely interested. Okay. I don't believe that players just turn bad, just like that. Like, call me crazy. I still think there's a good player in Raheem Sterling. There's a perfectly dependable Premier League winger there for probably about half the games we're going to play this season, for sure. He won't play half the games, but that he could get to a level that would be good enough for basically every home game against 8th or below, something like that, right? I believe there's that still in him. And so I believe that Sane, I think, might be a touch younger as well. And I think looked really good against us last year in the Champions League. I think there's a player there that, yes, Arsenal and Arteta could get a lot from, but sometimes perception of a transfer matters. I know it's all about, well, just sign who you think is right. Forget the haters, drown out the noise, get whoever you think is the right player, and ultimately they'll deliver. But I do think perception of a signing matters. Leroy Sane would be the fourth player to have been a part of Man City's 2017-18 Centurion teams, who were fantastic, who we're hoping would come in and elevate us into becoming, Premier League champions. There's a reason that Guardiola moved on from these players. There's a reason that Guardiola, flipped the script a little bit and went for something different, and actually even transformed the profile of wingers he had out there. So I think if we're just to pick up all the players that once did it, we're bringing back the gang. Hey, have you got one more title in you? I just don't think it's a great look. I don't think it works. I don't think any title-winning side in Premier League history that I can remember, since I've been watching for the last just under 20 years, I can't remember a side that went, yeah, we're going to do it by picking up the players that other title winners deemed kind of not good enough for them anymore. And again, you can get one or two that form the squad and you can breathe life into them and they can maybe take you up a certain level. And I'm not saying Sane isn't a very good player who wouldn't do something for us. Profile-wise, he's perfect. But there's something different about this. If we went for Rafinha, some people might say, okay, I know Rafinha's in great form now, but if we went for Rafinha in the summer, I know what a lot of people would have said. They would have said, he's a Barcelona reject, blah, blah, whatever, but that's different. He was never at a Premier League club like a City or a Chelsea or Man United for us to see how he did at that high level club before. We could have maybe, like Erdegaard, brought something back out of him. But I think when they've failed at Sane never failed at Man City. But when you're bringing in players that were no longer at the clubs that you're trying to catch, I don't know. I think we need to change that perception a little bit now. They're a very good player. I spent ages on that. His injury record's not as bad as you think, but it's also not great. James, it's called unrest. You may not want them to leave, but sometimes you can't keep an unhappy player. James, that's right. And you're talking about Isak there. Absolutely. 100 million plus Jesus. I'd do it. Yeah. Let's leave the Isak stuff. I've got on for ages. I think we can talk about Ben White now. There's only be a 30-minute live stream, but thank you so much to everyone who's tuning in. I don't ask you all to do this enough, but I'm going to here. Hit the like button. There it is. Hit the like button. If you're enjoying the stream, if you're enjoying the content on the Goonerverse, like I said, a slow week than normal. And also, again, I never do enough of this, but subscribe to the channel if you're not and you like this kind of stuff, because that's the best way for you to all find out when I'm uploading and to be kept up to date with everything going on. I really want the Goonerverse to be like just the hub of Arsenal information. Something happens and we've talked about it via the shorts, if it's kind of quick news that doesn't need a lot of conversation, a video if there's something you can quickly bring your reaction to, or something like this where we just need to have a big conversation around a lot of news, and that's what we're doing today. Zayn, love for the love, as Turkish would say. Okay, let's talk about Ben White. I won't say too much on this. I think my main thing is that you should know he's got a joint issue. It's according to Sky Sports. He's had minor surgery, but that minor surgery is going to keep him out for 10 to 12 weeks. So we're looking at about 3 to 4 months there. It's a lot. It's a long time. What are we, mid-November? Mid-December, mid-January, mid-February. You're looking at early March. And even then, there's an international break. So there's every chance he doesn't play football for Arsenal until April, which is pretty, intense to go that long without a player like Ben White, who we've really, really, really depended on. Like, really depended on. I don't know. I feel he's been our starting right back for the last 2 seasons. He was our starting centre back in the 21-22 campaign when we first signed him. He plays, I thought he slotted in brilliant for Saliba. But he's also not made a great start to the season. And I think you can now put that down to the injury. Like, I think you can now say, that maybe the reason he hasn't found his best form is because he's been carrying this injury. Arteta's kind of spoken about that. And we can kind of obviously sympathise with that. He also played a lot of football last season through an injury. And, the absence of Jurriën Timber, Tomiyasu couldn't keep fit enough and hasn't at all kept fit this season. He's played, I think, 10, 20 minutes against Southampton. I don't know. All that is kind of putting more strain on Ben White and his need to play. Mikel Arteta, in his own words, said this guy will play through anything. He'll do anything for you. He'll run through a brick wall. Okay, I'll paraphrase that. But that's the message he's sending out. Like, he makes himself available. He gets himself on that pitch, Ben White. But that's just not good for the long term. It's led to something like this. Dare I say, could he have had this in the summer? Could he have had this surgery back then? I know he's played football since then, so the argument is, well, he's been fine. But I think this is to correct a long-term issue, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really frustrating. A lot of eyes are now turning to those who have been unavailable, like Zinchenko's been in and out with injury. Takahiro Tomiyasu, let's say it is. Takahiro Tomiyasu is the one that people are talking about. I do feel that we need to stop. And it's hard because I do it myself. But we really need to stop taking these injuries so personally. Like, Tomiyasu does not want to be injured. He doesn't want to be unfit and unavailable to play. He wants to be out on the pitch. He wants to be a starter. He wants to not just, be able to give Ben White a rest. He wants to be playing week in, week out for Arsenal. So I do think we need to sympathise massively for Tomiyasu on that front. But I understand the frustration that we're in a squad position where Jurriën Timber is going to be in and out this season because of the long-term effects of this ACL injury, and he probably still shouldn't be playing too much football anyway. Ben White now has this injury he's got to recover from because he's kind of played through it. How many clubs are that blessed in the right-back position that we can then, as a third choice, opt for Takahiro Tomiyasu? Calafiori has had his, the odd injury problem here and there. Zinchenko's got the, we need Tomiyasu to put his weight at some point, and he wants to. Of course, he wants to. People, he wants to, but he's just not able to. Now, I think there might be some sort of. I read a thread a while back. I can't quite remember, but I think there's something to do with. I want to say it's like a tendonitis or something. There's an actual it's not just an injury. I think it might be like a flare up of a condition in the tendon or something that is really causing him issues. I mean, growing up, we've all had them, whether it be like, is it Osgood Schlatter, the one you have on your knee that causes you problems? Or, I mean, I'm obviously not a professional athlete, but I myself have like a, tendon issue. Like, you can have these things that you're not injured, but cause you problems and discomfort. And I think he's got more one of those. If I'm mistaken, I'm not. Should we research it? Sure, rather than me just talking about nonsense. Tomiyasu injury. I might be wrong, but I think I read something on Twitter that said it was around that. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. Suffered a setback to the knee injury. That's what we learned on the 28th of October. So has he got something in the knee that's kind of like keeps flaring up, causing a problem? I don't really know. I don't know. I really really feel for Tommy, but we need him playing football. We need Timber to be able to be rotated in and out. We need Tomiyasu starting at right back. We need the centre backs uninterrupted. And then a left back, Calafiori can't play. Tomiyasu is probably the nearest in profile. But then you can, or maybe Kivior, but then you can opt on those other players. I don't know. I want him on the pitch because he's a very good player, Tomiyasu, and we're going to need him. In fact, we probably needed him to come on at the Etihad. We needed him to play a part in some of these bigger games like Newcastle, like Chelsea. But Yeah, it's a shame we didn't have him. It was a real shame. The good news is Erdegaard is back. Of course, we saw him play. He's not on international duty. Rice and Saka pulled out too, so they'll get the rest they need. We hope to have a fully fit squad, or near enough. Obviously, but White's out, but we can have a near enough fully fit squad. By Forest when that comes around. That's sort of wishful thinking, isn't it? But one or two injuries we can deal with. But when it gets kind of more, especially in one concentrated area of the pitch, and then you start moving around your 6 to right back and doing things like that, it kind of just gets really messy. But yeah, hopefully Tommy can be back soon, and Calafiori as well. What else we got? Let's go through your comments quickly before I just quickly touch on David Coote one last time. Christopher says Kimmich and Winter would be such a good sign for us. His contract ends this summer, so getting for cheap. I think it'd be brilliant inverting into midfield. No, I think Zinchenko should be fit. He just gets injuries, doesn't he? Tendinitis is short-term inflammation. Tendinosis is chronic. Okay, I didn't know that. I don't know if that's what he has, Tomiyasu, but yeah, fine. Come on, we need players to pull their part, to pull their weight, and all play their part. I disagree with that personally. Yeah, Max makes a great point here. I'm fine with it if Timber and Callum stay fit, but I doubt they do. So, because this bit, okay, let me level with you all. Did a piece on AFTV that was meant to come out today. Because of the White injury, that video is basically made completely redundant. So, I may be re-recording it to get. The point of the conversation was talk about why White and Timber and Calafiori are a fantastic fullback partnership for us. And I think we should remember that and actually think, okay, we don't have White, but we can still put out a very good 11 weekly if we manage Timber and Calafiori's fitness well. And then Tomiyasu and Kivil can play every now and again. If we're in that situation, that's brilliant. But yeah, if I don't do that video on AFTV, I'll do it here. Let's put it that way. I will make that video at some point because there's some really good data around during Timber and Calafiori and how they play together and what we're like as an attacking unit with those two as opposed to with Ben White. And that's not to discredit Ben White, has been brilliant, one of my favorite players over the last 3 years. But we can be okay, is what I'm trying to say. All right, that's it. Ben White out for 3 to 4 weeks. No, 3 to 4 months, 10 to 12 weeks. Hopefully, he'll be back for the real running, and it'll be a real big boost to get a player like Ben back. He's important. Yeah, he's an important player. He's been completely injury free. I mean, he's played through pretty much everything, and he's only ever missed like a week or two here every now and again. But this time they just had to do something a bit more long term about it, which is completely fair enough. Okay, let's chat on David Coote. And you know what I'm going to say, right? I wish I could pull this up on screen. I can't. Let me read you a tweet from Harry Simeon. He said this yesterday, and I retweeted it. He said, whatever your view on the David Coote stuff, whether you think he should continue in his role or not, etc., I'll never understand why so many appear to enjoy watching others being dragged through the mud. We've seen so many examples of high-profile people struggle to deal with scandals, and unfortunately, they're not all still here to tell the tale. Mentally, it takes its toll. Do we ever learn? I think Harry Simeon is absolutely spot on. And I did my video on Monday. And, with that, as well as the conversation I had with Turkish, I said, look, my question is about the professionalism of the PGMOL here more than anything. David Coote's thoughts on Jurgen Klopp. All right, it's his opinion. I don't think it looks great at all. I really don't like the use of his nationality in there. Him thinking Jurgen Klopp isn't a bloke he particularly likes is not the end of the world. I think the tone of the way he said things it can put the idea of bias into fans' heads, unfortunately, or subconscious bias. It can do that. I don't say the word corruption. I don't believe that's at play with the PGM world, but I could be naive and wrong. I'm just recapping over my thoughts on everything. But my big thing has always been about the professionalism of the PGM world massively. That's where I've been kind of directing my energies, the professionalism from the shows they do to the nonsense they speak to the to the way they operate behind the scenes on the microphones to fancy footballs on phones or not, all this stuff, right? I've questioned their professionalism to this kind of celebrity status we're given. I don't like all that. No, I think it was incredibly unprofessional to get to a state in which you say this stuff and you don't remember it being recorded and it makes its way out there and it can compromise your position as a referee. But I also don't think that he's done the worst thing ever and that he should lose everything in life. And I think that people have their fun and say their memes. Some people are joking in favor of Coote and not in favor of Coote. You know, the internet will do what the internet does. But, you know, as kind of more emerges, I don't want this guy to lose everything. I don't want this to be like viewed as like the most awful, outrageous thing of all time. However, he can't, in my opinion, and I'm saying this because I watched Gary Neville and Roy Keane debate Ian Wright and Jamie Carragher. So it was Keane and Neville versus Wrighty and Carragher, and Keane and Neville felt that he could still ref in the Premier League, and Carragher and Wright, and forgive me, Wrighty. Actually, Wrighty didn't say he definitely can't, but they were implying like it's very difficult to, and they were arguing why he maybe couldn't. And I largely agreed more with Carragher and Wrighty. That I didn't even do a thumbs up, but there we go. I agreed more with them that ultimately, when you speak so cuttingly about someone, and then you've got someone, you know, on the side who's kind of adding his bit to it, and you don't jump in to say that you don't agree with some of that, and you know, and you're using language like I would avoid talking to Klopp, you know, or I do my best not to talk to Klopp, things like that. Unfortunately, I just think that position that refs need to hold, which is we know that they have people they like and don't like, we know that, but that position that they hold of appear totally unbiased, even though we know that they probably aren't, even when we know there'll be people they like and don't like or whatever, that position that they need to like hold and give off, once that's compromised, I just think it's too difficult to recover from. But I just wanted to put the other side. I think Harry Symeou's tweet about it is very is poignant, the word? Maybe not. Maybe I've used that word wrong. But it's spot on. So I'll leave it there, everyone. Comments coming in. I know some of you are coming with your thoughts on the yeah. Chrome says whole thing is overblown, but it's not a good look if they allow them to continue to ref. A few others have come in with some stuff as well, so we'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone. I've got to shoot. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed doing another live. Been a while, but I'm glad we've done it. Hope you're all well. That was just a quick update on some stuff regarding Ben White, Alexander Isak, and just sort of the latest on David Coote. I'm out of here. There will be some content maybe this week. I can't promise anything because, like I said, full steam ahead on some serious work on the Goonerverse that Max and I are really excited about. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I will catch you all soon.